Good morning. So, today we are going to continue our topic from Module 5 Interprocess Communication. So, this was the syllabus. We need to cover the concepts in interprocess communication. Gone through the concepts of process, tasks, and threads, and what is shared data. And now we are going to the concepts of signals, semaphore, message queue, mailboxes, pipes, sockets, and remote procedure call. So in the last class, we already discussed about what is process, what is interprocess communication, what is unicast and multicast interprocess communication. Then what is the need for interprocess communication? So these are the needs that we mentioned in the last class: information sharing, resource sharing, computation, speed up, synchronization, modularity, and convenience. Then we discussed about the mechanisms, message passing and shared memory mechanisms in interprocess communication. And to synchronize the processes, we need a semaphore. So this was a block diagram. The first one is about shared memory interprocess communication. Second one, message passing interprocess communication. So these are the various functions that we are using in shared memory interprocess communication. SHM get to get the keys to and size and various flags of one shared memory. To attach this shared memory, we need to use shared memory attach function. And to detach this one from a process, we need to use shared memory detach function. And to control the operations of shared memory, we need to use shared memory control function. And suppose a process A and B is communicating with each other. A shared memory region resides in the address space of the process which is creating the shared memory segment. So whoever is initiating the interprocess communication, in this case, if process A is initiating, this shared memory will be located in the process A. And other process, like if in this case process B want to communicate with process A, then process B need to attach this memory space to process B also to communicate with the process A. And also we discussed about an example of shared memory concept. The example was producer consumer problem. And this was a pseudocode, created a structure. Then this was a pseudocode for the producer. This was the pseudocode for the consumer. Second mechanism is message passing mechanism. In message passing mechanism, we are communicating with processes using messages. So in this block diagram, suppose this process is communicating with this process, then through a message passing module, this is sending a message, and there is a channel here or a link. Through that link, this message is reaching to the receiving process. So before going to the concepts of message passing mechanism, we will just go through the terminologies. First terminology is file. A computer file is a block of arbitrary information or resource for storing information. A file is durable in the sense that it remains available for programs to use after the current program has finished. Signal. Signal is limited form of inter-process communication used in Unix and Unix-like operating systems. Essentially, it is an asynchronous notification sent to a process in order to notify it of an event that occurred. When a signal is sent to a process, operating system interrupts the process's normal flow of execution. Execution can be interrupted during any instruction. Another terminology is socket. Sockets are provide a point-to-point two-way communication between two processes. So it's a bidirectional communication. link. Socket are a versatile and a basic component of inter-process and inter-system communication. Socket is an endpoint of communication to which a name can be bound. It has a type and one or more associated process. Socket exists in communication domains. Then message queues. Message queues provide an asynchronous communication protocol, meaning that the sender and receiver of the message do not need to interact with the message queue at the same time. Messages placed onto the queue are stored until the recipient retrieves them. Most of the message queue have set limits on the size of the data that can be transmitted in a single message. So we will discuss about message queue in this class today. Another terminology is pipe or pipeline. It's a set of processes chained by their standard streams so that the output of each process feed directly as an input to the next one. So there is a parent process and child process. This pipe or this pipeline here, the parent data is the write data to pipe and child is the read data from the pipe. For pipe B, child data is the write data, parent reading the data from the pipe. Another is FIFO. In FIFO, in pipe permits sequential communication from one process to another related process. So there should be a relation between processes, and then only you can communicate through pipe. But in the case of FIFO similar to pipes only, but unrelated process can also communicate with the help of FIFOs. So whenever we need a message passing inter-process communication, we need to establish a communication link, physical or logical. Then we need two functions, send function and receive function, to send and receive messages. So when we are implementing a message passing inter-process communication, we have a lot of doubt. For example, how are links established in message passing inter-process communication? Can a link associated with more than two processes? How many links can there in between every pair of communicating processes? What is the capacity of a link? Is the size of the message that the link accommodates fixed or variable? Is a link unidirectional or bidirectional? So these are some implementation question will be in our mind when it comes to message passing inter-process communication. So this is a block diagram. Here, as you can see, every process have a message passing mechanism module, and through kernel we can communicate. So process A is placing a message to kernel, then from that process B can access the messages. For every message passing mechanism inter-process communication, we need send message and receive message operation. It may be fixed size or variable size. If you use a fixed size messages, the system implementation is straightforward, but makes the task of programming more difficult. So inter-process programming will be difficult if you use fixed size. If you use variable size, system level implementation is complex, but the inter-process programming will be very simple in variable size kind of message send mechanism. If a process P want to communicate with process Q, there must be a send message and receive message function. Apart from that, so this communication link can be, with the help of that communication link, so this link can be implemented in variety of way: direct or indirect communication, synchronous or asynchronous communication, automatic or explicit buffering. If we use direct communication means we need to explicitly name the recipient or sender of the communication. For example, send P comma message means send a message to process P. So we need to explicitly mention to which process we need to send the message. Receive Q comma message means receive a message from process Q. So explicitly we need to mention the process name in direct communication. And the link established automatically between every pair of the process that that want to communicate, the process need to know only each other's identity to communicate. A link associated with the exactly two process. So in direct communication, the link is exactly associated with the one pair of communicative process. That is a conclusion. And between each pair, there exists only one link. And this link may be unidirectional or bidirectional. But in the case of indirect communication, the messages are directed and received through mailboxes. Each can communicate only if they share a mailbox. Properties of communication link. And compared to the indirect communication, the link established only if the process share a common mailbox. Indirect communication, we don't need to require any common mailbox. And the link may be a pair of processes, but here we have many processes that can communicate with the link through the link. Each pair of process may share several communication links. Link may be unidirectional or bidirectional. So these are the difference between indirect and direct communication in message passing mechanism. So this is the structure of a message queue. So we can keep the message in message queue, and we can take the data and we can put it to any other process whoever want to communicate with each other. In depth, if you see what is message queue is a queue onto which the message can be placed. Message queue can be either public or private. If a message queue is public, it can be accessed by any processes that knows the key of the queue. If it is private, then it can be accessed by creating the process or child process of the create. When we are using message queue, the basic functions in message queue, first one is message sent. This function we are using to send message to the message queue. Message receive is the function reads a message from the message queue. So first one is to put the data to message from a process. Second one to receive a data from message queue to process. And to control the message queue operations, we can use message control function. And this is the CMD. Here you can put the command. For example, if you want to remove the message queue, we can use the message control function along with IPC_RMID command. If you put this command in this position, we can remove the message queue. So message send, message receive, message control are the basic functions that we are using in message queue for inter-process communication. Apart from message queue, we need a synchronization in inter-process communication. For that, we are using and access critical sections simultaneously. Basically, we have two types of semaphores, binary and general semaphores. Binary, as the name implies, binary semaphore is a variable that can take only values 0 and 1. In general semaphore, we can take any positive values. The function associated with semaphore is wait function and signal function. This is very important. Using these two functions, the semaphore is synchronizing the operations in binary semaphore concept. We have two conditions, wait and signal. So these are the header file. The programs will be under these header files, ipc.h, semaphore.h. So if you use semaphore.cm.h, this header file includes all the files as header files associated with semaphores. And the functions, that basic function that we are using under this header file is smget, This is to create the semaphore. So if we use, after including this header file, if we use this function, we can create new semaphore with variables and keys. And to change the operating values of semaphore, we can use this function. And to control the operations, we can use this function. During synchronization, we have different types of synchronization. One is blocking send, another is non-blocking send. In the receiver section, we have blocking receive and non-blocking receive. So it's very simple differentiation. Blocking send means sender blocked until message is received by mailbox or process. So during inter-process communication, sender creates a message and sends a message. If this message is not received by either mailbox or processes, then we will block the sender until the message is received by the mailbox or process. In non-blocking send means sender receives the operation immediately after sending the message. So it need not to wait for the reception of mailbox and process. In blocking receive means the receiver blocks until a message is available. And non-blocking means receiver returns immediately with either valid or null message. Another concept is buffering. So all messaging system requires a framework to temporarily buffer the messages. These queues are implemented in one of three ways: zero capacity, bounded capacity, unbounded capacity. Zero capacity means no messages may be queued within the link, requires sender to block until the receiver retrieves the message. So here we don't have any queuing. We need to directly send the messages, and we need to block if the message is not received by the receptor. So that means we don't have any queuing mechanism. If message is sent and it is not received in the other end, we need to block the system. But in the bounded capacity means finite number of message buffers are available. If buffer is not free, then we will block the sender. And whenever there is a free space in the buffer, the sender can goes on sending the messages. In unbounded means there is no limit, so continuously the sender can send the message. We don't need to block the system. Now there is an example video about the message queue. We'll watch it there.
Well, at a post where I demonstrate code before I show you the demo of sender as well as a receiver. That is mandatory. We know that we have a sender and receiver. The receiver cannot receive until the sender sends, or the sender cannot send until the receiver is ready to receive.
So here there is no buffering that much.
We have two processes, for example. The first process will send the message. The second process can receive the message. That's it. And before you send the data, you need to tell the receiver that I'm sending the data of type A, B, C, something like that. And the receiver also has to be ready to receive the data of type A, B, C. For example, here we set it as 1. The 1 is the type of the data that I'm going to send from one end to the receiver end. We have 3 different system calls that are to be used to.
So like we mentioned in the presentation, we need to use three functions when we are using message passing in the process communication: message send function, message receive function, message control functions. So for that, working for all these functions, we are including all the relevant header files: ipc.h, types.h, message.h.
Towards constructing a queue. The first one is message send, the second one is message receive, and the third one is message control. Message send will initialize the queue. Message receive will be helpful in receiving the messages that are being sent. Message control will be for administrative privileges to delete the queue, etc. We can use it. Now, before I go deeper into the code, there is another thing that we need to know. When we have a house, we'll have a door and we'll have a lock. The lock is nothing but a safety purpose thing. So we have a key to open the lock. Similarly, when you have a queue, it is advisable to have a key. A key is nothing but a number or something that can help the receiver in identifying that this is the message that has been sent by this person, and you need a key like this to open that particular door. So we need to generate with the key. So generation of the key can happen through F2K, that is a system call again, which is called a file to key. Just remember this, we have something called file to key. Now, regarding the header files, it is nothing. You can just go to man page and type message send msg You will definitely get the guidance towards using which header files appropriately for this purpose. Now, you come into the main code. We have something called as a structure here, as I have highlighted. We have named the structure called message buff, and inside the structure I have two parameters. One is m type, which I told you earlier. I need to set the type of the message that I'm going to send, and here we select it as one, which I will set it later in the code. And second, the length of the text.
So after initializing all the header files, now we created a structure, and this structure is very important during the interprocess communication through message passing mechanism, message queue
I'm going to
mechanism.
send maximum 200 characters, so I have set it here. Now I have got a structure. This structure is very simple, where I have two components. The first component is to set the type of the message. The second component is to tell you how much characters or how many characters you are going to send.
So this is a finite character size or string size. So it's not an not fixed type of system. It is having a fixed size for the messages.
Across to the receiver. Now I come to the main code. I create an instance of the structure called MSG, and now I have something called as message ID. We will use both of these later, so put it on hold as of now. And we have something called as key underscore T. That's the key. We have a key here. This key is of the type key underscore T, and every queue must have a type. And this key underscore T is defined in the system call called message send. I told you we have a system call called as message send here. This message send has got the complete definition of key underscore T. So I need a key for my queue. How will I create a queue? We have three different steps.
So, like you said that to get a proper identity, we are creating a key, and for creating key, we are using ftalk function. So using ftalk function, we can create a separate key for each messages. So this function is very important, ftalk.
The first step is what I have highlighted now. First, create a key. That's the first step. How do I create it? Key is equal to F2K, file to key, with the name of the file. It can be any file name, but the file has to be available there. Here I use the same file name, 3 underscore message send is the name of the file that I have here. I use the same file for getting the key generator, and this is a parameter.
So you have two files created in two separate tabs, and for these two files, we are creating separate keys.
You can give A, B, C, anything. If this is -1, that means that the key is not generated, and we will need to get the error reason, and that's through P error. Okay, so this is the first step. I have generated.
So that means the function is failed means we don't get any key. So for checking whether the key is generated or not, we are using this if condition. If this function is equal to -1 means the key is not generated.
The key. The key can be generated through a file. This can be C file. This can be a .text file. This needs to be a file. That's we are generating a key for a particular file, and the same file name will be shared at the receiver end to again regenerate the key to see if both of them can communicate. This is a validity part. Now come to the second part. I need to just generate the message ID. The next step is very simple. I need to generate the message ID. Message ID can be generated with the system call called message get.
So like we mentioned in the presentation, we need a unique ID for each messages. So for that we need to use message get function. So using this function we can create message ID.
And here we need to understand one thing. The key is generated first, and then the generated key will be used to the next level. This message ID is generated next. The generated message ID will be used.
So this is the command for creating message ID for interprocess communication, and key that this is we already generated this one using ftalk function.
To the next level. Likewise, we will keep using the previous levels output in the current levels input. So if you miss one of the levels in between, it is going to be taxing for us, so we cannot use it. So I've got message get system call here, message get, and I use key as a parameter. I use 0644, which is for read write permission for the owner, read permission for the group, read permission for others. You can make it 777 also, does not matter. And I create it for the first time. In that case, I use IPC underscore create. If it is already available, I'll open it with this permission. If this fails, the message ID would not be generated. And now, assuming that the message ID will be generated because I know the code is right, I'll go to the next step. The first step is to generate the key. I have generated the key. The second step is to use the key to generate message ID.
So, so this is the step. First, we need to generate key. Then we need to create the message
I
ID.
have generated it. I'm just printing the message ID here. This is just to tell you that the message ID has been generated. Now here you can see message.message type is equal to 1. What is message type? You can see that that's an instance of the, that's one of the parameters of the structure that we have. So message type is 1 here. So I have set it as 1. That means that the message type is agreed as 1 for the sender and the receiver. Now I can start getting the message from the user. When I run the code, I'm getting the message from the user using gets, and it will be obtained until the 200 characters is over. Now I obtain the message. Now I need to send it across. So how do I send it? I use a message send. What is the ID that I use? I have a message ID. I need to pass address of the message, which is nothing but a parameter for the structure, and then I need to give size of as an argument, and this will be now sent. That's all. So we use 3 system calls. First one is F2K, second one is message get, third one is message send. That's all. This code is over. Now finally, after sending the message and after the receiver has received it, we can delete it with message control, where I need to use IPC underscore RMID.
So this one we already discussed during the presentation. We can remove the queue using IPC underscore RMID. So after the all the operations that we have done using message control command, we can remove the message queue.
ID. RMID is nothing but remove ID, or you can manually remove the queue also. This is preferable to add the code for the removal also in the main code itself. Now, just to recap, what did I do? I just know that I need it. So, how do I generate it? Through message get. The third step, the sending part is over. The receiving part is very simple, which you are going to see right now. The code is different now. You can see that here. The receiving part is very, very simple. Now I've got the same code. There is no change. Up to this is the same. I'm scrolling. Just follow the same. Up to this is the same. I have made no change. Here you can see that I'm generating the key again. That key is nothing but the one that I used to validate if the same file has been used at the sender end. So it has to be message send.c there. It has to be message send.c here as well. Now the key is generated. Now I need to check if the message ID is properly generated again. If message ID equal to message get of key, with the key reference, I'm getting the message ID. With the key reference, I'm generating the message ID, and it's again the same. I did not do much of the changes here. Now I need to receive. So I put an infinite loop here, and I get into it. I use a message receive. How do I receive the message? With reference of message ID, size of message, ampersand message, all these things are the parameters. Now I will print it on the screen.
So in the second tab, we are coding for message receive. So here only the difference is here we are using an infinite loop and message receive function. So whatever the data sent through the message send, we can receive here using message receive function.
That's it. No difference other than the message receive being used instead of message send. We will now probably run it once to see if it is working fine. I'll show you the way that we can run this code. It is very simple. So I have named the file as 3 underscore message send.c and 3 underscore message receive.c. I'm going to just run it for you guys now. Please watch it carefully. Now please see it carefully. I have 2 files here, message send.c and message receive.c. I'm going.
So these are the 2 files we created. Message sent and message received, 2 files. In both program, only difference is in message sent, we are creating a token or key, then we are creating an ID, then we are sending the messages with a finite size of 200. And receiving session, apart from in a key creation and ID creation, we have only difference is continuously checking for the message reception using message receive function. Here is using message send function, and till the end of the array, it will receive the message from the message send process.
Have two terminals because one terminal will act as the sender, another terminal can
So two process means we need two terminal, and in two terminal we need to run the program.
act as a receiver, right? So that's very simple. CD desktop, CD OS concepts I have it there, ls. Now I'm going to compile it. GCC -o 3 underscore message send dot c. I need to give the name of the file. So snd for execution. I've compiled it. Now I have got the snd ready, which is nothing but the final executable file. Now I can go and compile the receiver file gcc-o rcv 3 underscore message receive.c dot slash rc. Now I'm going to run dot slash send here. So you can see that here. Before that, I will clear the screen so that you can see dcd dot slash send. The message ID is 0. So I'm now typing it here. Now the receiver has to be ready. So I run it here. The receiver is also ready. Now whatever I type here in this screen that is moving should appear here on the left. Sriram is typing code. That's it. Whatever I have typed there is available here. This is called message.
So this is one example for message queue video, message queue interprocess communication. So what we have done here is we just created two processes, and we used the message receive, message send, message control function commands functions. Then using that we run the program and we communicate with process 1 and process 2. So it's a very simple concept. You can also try. So this is the concept of message queue. The remaining topic we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.